just doing this video more of a just testing how voiceover works. So I'll just be using one of my old videos. So as you can see by the picture here, this is a base that I did for my Mad Max Interceptor build. I wanted it to look like I wanted the base to look like it had been kind of ripped out of the ground, kind of, including asphalt. So you can see here, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. And just a couple more photos here, so you can see, these nice cracks in the asphalt, the way the edges are broken. You can see here how it actually overhangs the ground, I'll call it. And again, more the cracks and stuff. So I just thought I would just repost the tutorial video with a voiceover showing how I make this asphalt. There's several ways online. You can do it using plaster and putty and the like, but this way is very quick, very simple, and actually very, very cheap way to do it, the way I have it done here. This will mostly only work for 1/24th, 1/25th, 1/12th motorcycles, that sort of thing. 1/20th, 1/16th is probably as large as you could go, I would think, using this method, and I wouldn't go any smaller than 1/25th using this. Anyways, let's get to the video. So guys, here you can see the base that I just showed the photograph of. This is a closer look. So you can see here why I don't think you could go any smaller than a 1/25th scale using this. Just the grains in the asphalt itself kind of wouldn't lend itself to any smaller scale than 1/25th, in my opinion. So basically all I use for this is just cork. You can pick this up at any hobby store. Here in Canada, I bought it in a pack of 5 at Michael's. It cost me about $7 or $8. In the US, you could probably get it for 2 or 3. Comes in different thicknesses. You can get it very thin. The one I have here, probably about 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, somewhere in between there. So here's the type that I bought at Michael's. The brand doesn't really matter as long as it's cork and it's whatever thickness it is that you want to work with. So I just cut this small piece just for this demonstration. You can see one side is rougher than the other, so it gives you a couple of options there in the type of asphalt that you want to have. So the other nice thing about cork is the way it actually breaks along the edges. Lends itself to similar to the way that asphalt itself will break and crumble away. So again, it just adds to the realism, the realistic look of the asphalt on your base. And again, depending on the type of surface you want, a bit rougher or a bit smoother. So again, here you can see just breaking away, the random pattern in the breaks. It looks like the way the edge of asphalt would break. On the edge of the pavement, if there was a large pothole, part of the pavement was missing. When you do break those edges off, it's best to keep those. So one of the things about this is how cheaply it can be done. So you can see here the two primers that I have. I have a gray and a black. Sorry for the poor camera work, but these are the absolute cheapest primer I could find. Literally just $2 or $3 a can. And this is all that I use this primer for. I wouldn't use it on a model itself, but for this type of work, working on bases and stuff, this works good, and it works good for this application as well. So first I just go with a very light mist coat of the gray. You don't need to completely cover it. This is just a mist for the base coat. Do around the edges as well as the top surface. But again, it's very, very light coat. Then you can come right after that with the black. Again, very, very light mist coats. You're not really going for coverage again. This is just laying down your base. You don't even have to wait for the second coat of primer to dry. You can just go right with the black directly after the gray. And then once that's done, you can just let it dry for 5-10 minutes, as long as it's dry to the touch. So here you can see it's dry to the touch. So now we're ready to actually start to paint and weather. So you just use a square-ended brush. Again, cheapest brush you can get. It doesn't have to be a good brush, just anything. And again, sorry for the poor camera work, but what I'm showing here is this is the cheap craft acrylic paint you can get at Michael's or Hobby Lobby. Again, cheaper the better here. If you can find it for 50 cents a bottle, perfect. For this demonstration, I'm just using gray and black. So first I go with the gray. You don't need to water it down or thin it or anything. And you should go in the direction of the travel of your roadway when you're applying your paint. Again, with the paint, same as with the primer, you're not going for coverage. You're just trying to add some randomness to it. So just put the paint on and till you're satisfied with the look. And then again, don't let the paint dry, just go right to your second color. In this instance I'm showing here, it's going to be black. You don't have to clean the brush or anything. You can just go directly into the black paint. And again, you're not going for full coverage. You're just going for the tone of the pavement that you want. And you know, you don't want a uniform surface here. And then you can just leave that to dry as well. And after 5 or 10 minutes that's dry to the touch, then you can go and add your lines. For this instance, I'm just going to put a line along the edge, but you can use paper cutouts to put in arrows or dashed lines down the center or any other marking that you would want on the pavement. In this instance, I'm just going to use an edge line just for the sake of the demo. So I'm just using tape here as a straight edge. You can use paper. As you'll see, the tape is not for sticking anyways, it's just as a guide. And you're not really, you want to not have too much bleed through, but if you, as you'll see here soon, I'll show you how to fix any bleed under that you think is too much. So as you can see here, the tape is not stuck. I'm just using it as a guide. So I'm using white in this instance. And it's good to clean your brush before you do this. And then I just paint it down again. It doesn't have to be full coverage. Randomness is good for this. So you can see here I have a couple of areas there where it's too much bleed under the tape or under the edge. So I'll show you how to quickly fix that. It's no, you don't have to start over or anything like that. So all you need is a little bit of water. It's best to use, or not best, but you don't even need clean water. You can use the water that you used to clean your brush before you went to the white. You can see here, it's just dirty water. That's fine, that'll work. So you just dip your brush in, clean your brush, dip it in, and then you just clean along the edges with your brush to remove, then just dry the brush off and do it again until you get the edge the way you like it. And then you can take some of the white and apply it over the asphalt as you like. And that's pretty much it. As far as the painting goes, you can add dust, you can use chalks, weathering chalks, um, powders or anything if you want to further weather the pavement. If you're doing a desert scene, you want to add dust to the edges and stuff, you can use powders and stuff to do that, or use your airbrush. So once it's dry to the touch, you can start putting in your cracks, and essentially all you do is break the cork wherever you want the crack to be. Just break the cork along that area. Like I said, the break is quite normal, quite random. Once you have your breaks done, I'll show you here now in a sec, but once you have your breaks done, you just paint the edges of the breaks black and place it back together. I'll show you here now in just a sec. So you just break your pavement. If you want cracks in your pavement, that is. Maybe you just want to leave it as it is. But if you want cracks, this is essentially how you do it. So you can see the nice randomness in the breaks. So basically you would just go and paint the edges of it black. Make sure there's no colors of the cork showing through along the edges because you don't want to see that. And then once you have those edges painted, you can just glue it down to your base, essentially like putting together a puzzle. And then once it's on your base and you have your put back together on your base, you can just use some sand or kitty litter or anything to put some gravel down into the crack itself, just the way you see it on a lot of roads. Or you can have a little bit of grass growing out of there, however you want to weather and however you want to make your pavement look, depending on what look you're going for. So here you can also make a pothole if you want, by just leaving a small piece out. And again, once that's on your base, and you can just put some gravel, again kitty litter or whatever you use for your gravels, and put it into the pothole. And these little pieces that you broke off, you can use those just as like if you wanted to have some rubble, pieces of pavement, or you can use the same method if you want to have concrete as well. And just break it up into small pieces, and you can use those. Doesn't even necessarily have to be on this base. It could be on another base that you're building. You want to have some rubble or something like this. You can use these small pieces for that. You can also put manhole covers as well in your roadway if you wanted to. Grates. You can make a curb with a drainage grate in it, or any amount of stuff you can do with using this method. So guys, there you go, easy as that. So here's a few examples of bases where I've used this method. This is the base that I showed at the beginning of the video with the Mad Max Interceptor on the base, just to show you the scale. This Interceptor I think is about 124, 125, one or the other. So you can see where I was saying that this is basically as small as I would go with this. So I think it looks in scale with this build. Here's another shot of that same base with the Interceptor again. Here's one of the Polar Lights DeLorean time machines. This is the episode 1. So you can see here I did a more defined edges on this build. You can see here, up here in the top left, it's more of a cut defined edge on the Asphalt than on the Interceptor, and you can see it as well here in the behind the back of the car. It's more of a, I was going for more of a defined edge with that base. Here's a build I did of the Knight Rider Junkyard Dog episode. In that episode, this was taking place in a parking lot, so I went for more of a concrete look with this one. I liked how that turned out. And here I use it as a racetrack starting grid, so you can see, of course, there's no cracks in the pavement here, because a lot of racetracks don't have cracks. But for the starting grid marker that I set up here, I basically just cut a template out of a piece of paper, an index card, and then just use my airbrush to paint the white. That way it gave me just very slight, I won't call it overspray, but they're not really sharp defined edges, which is exactly what I was going for. So this is a 1:12 scale, and again you can see it works quite well in 1:12 scale as well. But this is as large as I would go, would be 1:12. So you can see again here how the edges are not 100% sharp, which again is what I was going for here on this build. And here you can see it again. So anyways, guys, I hope this video helps some people out with their base building. Like I said, it's a very fast, very cheap, very simple way to do asphalt. Yeah, I hope this helps somebody, and as always, thanks for watching, and hope you stay for the next video. The tracks take my way.